Okay, we ready?
When you are.
All right, we'll call this meeting to order at 7:01. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Dabrowski.
Here.
Mr. Smith.
Here.
Mrs. O'Grady. Here. Mr. Bongiovanni.
Here.
Mr. Bryant.
Here.
Mrs. Browski. Here. Mr. Godina.
Here.
That.
Okay.
Good work, board.
Approval of the agenda.
All right, we have a couple changes. We're gonna flip flop the order from the original posting. So we have someone joining us this evening. We're gonna change the order so that Jody gets some floor time before or as early in the agenda as is possible. And then we do have an addition to the agenda, which is the consideration and hopefully approval of an intergovernmental agreement that I'll explain when we get a little closer to that agenda item. Everything else is the same.
And
Oh, and an updated personnel report. Thanks, Christy.
Thanks, Christine.
And that should be at your spots.
Yes. Okay, we're looking for an approval of the agenda as amended.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Roger, second by Danny. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, none, motion passes. Next, I'll be looking for an approval of the minutes of the June 10th, 2025 Board of Education meeting. Assuming there are no changes, I wasn't there.
I'll make the motion.
I can second.
Motion by Roger, second by Sarah. All in favor?
Aye. There should be one extension.
Two, right?
Okay.
Two.
Oh, sure, yeah.
We got 3 abstentions.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
I was not
There,
there.
yeah.
Dan, Jen, and Matt. Motion passes. Got 4 A's and 3 abstentions. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, moving along. Correspondence.
Yes, we have one message. Dear Heather and D114 board members, thank you so much for the sweet towel set for Zeke. It's still so surreal that he's finally here and getting his own mail. Thank you again. Sammy Lear, kindergarten teacher of Lotus. Zeke.
Zeke, is that cute?
That's
Mhm.
adorable.
He is cute too. Oh my gosh.
Getting his own mail.
He's getting his own mail. Chris sent
Oh,
something to him.
gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Didn't know if that was meant something else.
Oh, no, we're not
Okay.
that clever.
That's it for correspondence.
Yes, that's all.
Audience comments.
Hey, can we welcome Natalie, first official board member as Director of Business Services? So lovingly the Director of BS.
It's okay.
We've all texted Mary.
Oh, yes.
I sent her, don't you wish you were here right now? She's like, nope, it feels great. I'm gonna not take offense to that. Yeah,
She said it was a little strange not being here tonight, so.
that's not what she told me. It was nice of you. She's like, I'm just glad. All right. I think we're good.
All right. Anybody online?
Well, you got anything to say?
No, I'm all good. Roll, guys.
Next, we have the consent agenda, which represents accounts payable in the amount of, whoa, big number, $1,144,590.95, along with the treasurer's report. So if there aren't any questions on that, I'd be looking for that approval. Motion to approve that.
I'll make the motion.
Let Joe.
Yep.
It is.
I'll second.
Second by Roger. Please pull the board.
Mr. Bongiovanni.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Dabrowski.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Grady.
Yes.
Mr. Bryant.
Yes.
Ms. Boyarski?
Yes.
Mr. Delaney?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Motion passes.
All right, Natalie, would you like to introduce our guest?
Finance and facilities updates, TIF updates.
So this is Jody Luca, and she is here from the village. She actually brought a couple things for you. So I will let her hand those out.
Glad you're here, Jody. Thank you.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you.
So we've been reading our board policies and this doesn't break the gift ban.
No, I'm right under the
We're under
financial limit
threshold.
with that,
We'll
yeah.
Right.
Just making sure. Well, that's why we read those policies. Now we're just making sure.
I've got business cards too. All my information is on there also, but if you'd like a business card, just let me know. But again, first of all, I'd like to just say thank you for the opportunity to come and present to you guys. Give you a little bit of background about me and kind of what the village is, hopefully onward and upward of achieving. I spent my first life as a sign language interpreter for 15 years. I actually have a bachelor's degree in educational interpreting, but specialized in legal and medical. Did that for about 15 years and decided to change careers. At that point, I had always loved the public sector and was working at the courthouse in Lake County for a while and got my master's degree in public administration and policy. Once I finished that, I started working for the Village of Gurnee as a management analyst for their fire department, then worked over in the community and economic development department and spent about 7 years over there and then had the opportunity to join the Village of Fox Lake. So in a very small nutshell, that is me, but I'm thrilled to be here with this village. One of the reasons that the job was very appealing was because of the tools that the village was setting up. And really, when you look at the skeleton of who the village is and what they have, the opportunity is there. It's not a finished municipality by any means, so that opportunity excites me. One of the reasons why I was asked to come and speak with you tonight was to kind of talk about our TIF districts, what the village has set up, how those tools are used, what the goal is to use them, and how we're leaning into them the best that we can with what we've got right now.
Jody, when did you join the village?
I've been with the village for 18 months, so I joined at the end of December of 2023. So I guess it's a little bit more than 18 months. Yeah. So
Maybe.
So here's kind of the things that I said I'm going to talk about. What is a TIF district? Fox Lake does have 5. How this does affect our schools, how we're working with our schools, and really part of making TIFs successful is recruiting for business recruitment and retention. So this is the LIFE campaign, which hopefully you've seen some of this coming out these last several months. So that, and then how we can work together to continue the relationship. So if I'm backing up a little too far, please let me know. But at this point, I don't want to assume that anybody really knows anything. So TIFs are a tool that municipalities use to look and encourage redevelopment in areas. And so, the village implemented our TIF districts. One of them was implemented about 2015. The other 4 they started the process in 2021, and then they were approved in 2022. I've spent in the last 18 months a lot of time with Tesca & Associates, who was our TIF professional consultant that was brought on at the time to lead the village through those processes, asking them a bunch of questions about boundary lines and different projects that we have in the works. And in that, the Tesca said the village technically qualifies the whole village to be a TIF district, but that at that point is not the most productive use of a TIF district. So obviously we didn't do that. We looked at 5 different sections and how we can break these up with areas that truly need redevelopment and areas that have been ignored with no development. So we created these. They help stimulate private investment. Municipalities are using TIF districts. They're an extremely competitive tool that are being used as a recruitment opportunity for private investment. If you're familiar with the Melody Farms district in Vernon Hills, that was all made possible by a TIF. That's a mixed-use development. The new revamp of Hawthorne Mall across the street, that's a separate TIF district, all a TIF, working with the village and private investors and all the taxing bodies to really turn what is a non-productive site into productivity. When you do that, you bring in people spending more money. You make housing that has folks with higher average incomes that then spend it in town, bringing in more opportunity when private investors look at a town. They're looking for certain amounts of population within an area. They're looking for an average minimum income to know that there's expendable income to spend. If your town doesn't have that, they don't want to come here. One of Fox Lake's biggest assets is our hindrance as well, and that's our lakes. When we talked to, I went to Raising Cane's on a specific property when I first started here, and Raising Cane's laughed at me. We don't have enough people within that general 5-mile radius because we're surrounded by water. So that was when I realized we needed to change our pitch and what we're doing. Started the whole "This is the Life" campaign. Get into that a little bit, but these are some of kind of the things that we think of, and all come into play when folks either want to invest money in your town or not. TIFs are used, money that is gained from TIFs are used for certain costs and expenses only. It's not for anything and everything. It's highly regulated. Each TIF plan lays out what can be used with TIF dollars, what is eligible and what's not. So we do, and each TIF plan also has a cap, how much money can be spent out of that TIF. So if we say that this TIF area, for example, Mineola has a maximum of $30 million that can be used out of the TIF, which in a nutshell, what that means is if this property is developed, we foresee an increment of no less than $30 million being generated. So that's what the village can use towards that incentive to try and help, recruit development. If it makes over that, if it hits that earlier, the TIF ends and we're done. If it doesn't hit that, then the developer knows that we don't owe them any money because it doesn't hit it. So there's a whole lot of moving parts as TIFs are created. That's kind of why I say this is temporary. Once the TIF is done, they're 23 years. Once it's done, it's done. They can be extended, do note that, but they're done. And then whatever that each property is assessed at that time, every taxing body sees that from that point on forward as their new revenue stream. The TIFs that were done that started in 2021, that tax base is what was frozen, and every increment that is made from then till now is kind of what the village is quasi seeing in TIFs. So I did look at what we got from last year, and in total of the 5 TIF districts, the village did see a total amount of a $215,000 increment just last year. Now that's the 5 districts. You guys are part of 4 out of the 5. That's not just 114 school district. That's everybody. So you would have been a portion of that if there was no TIF. These properties right now are not productive properties. Our TIFs are underperforming, where the only increment that we're really seeing is because of that quadrennial that was done after the TIFs were implemented. So otherwise, like I said, they're not performing right now. One of the things that I'll get into is some of the projects that we do have going on that are going to change that projection. So again, I kind of jumped a little bit ahead. They last for about 23 years. We take that amount that the property tax was at the time that it was implemented. It's frozen. That is what you will see from here on out through the duration of the TIF. TIFs it's a hard pill to swallow, and schools often come and say this is not working for us. But all of the vacant and blighted properties in town are not working for anybody either. So that's kind of what we say, well, we've got to do something. We need something to recruit these private investors to come in and say why you should come here to Fox Lake. Hawthorne Woods, I'm just going to keep using them as an example. Melody Farms is there. It's productive. It's extremely successful TIF. They did the one next to it. So I'll just keep going to that one. They have a high residential population in the surrounding area, so that automatically appeals to all of your big developers. It appeals to your chain restaurants. It appeals to your big box stores. That's why they have it. They've got the average income that's extremely high. They have everything, but they still felt the need to do a TIF. So how does Fox Lake compete? We need TIFs as well. We can show that our property values are lower. So what that means is it's a great investment opportunity. You invest now and it's low, then eventually your rate of return is going to be much higher than when you go to someplace like there. So we use this as part of the pitch. Now it does, we bring in, we recently passed a redevelopment agreement and an intergovernmental agreement for the development that's going in at the northwest corner of Route 12 and 134. It's a 154 unit market rate apartment complex. The developer just finished building in Mundelein, and it's the exact same project that he built in Mundelein that he's bringing here to Fox Lake. The only difference is the color scheme that he's using. So with that, the mayor has made a promise to the school districts, and that's the only taxing body that he made a promise to, which is you guys will be made whole for the schools that come in. So per the TIF Act, we have to hold certain amounts of funds aside for the schools. So that's for both you and the high school. So what we did with this developer, what his request was, we worked with both school districts for that area. And what his request was, we want to go on an audit base. We want our residents and our leases to be audited. We want the school to provide their list of who they think is coming in from this address. And we want to then go ahead and audit our residents that are in there. Once that's all reconciled for every student that is in there, that developer is paying the school districts a set amount that's already been established. It's configured by tax laws and all of this other stuff. But that went through, and that amount has been established, and that is his agreement moving forward. The school districts both signed the IGA confirming. So every student that is coming in there, they will receive the difference between what is received from the state and what would have been received from the increment. So the school districts are being made whole per student that are coming into there. Now that development is not projected to get more, even it's 154 units. They did have an assessment done, and they're only projected to see about 10 students living there in total. And or 10 kids, 10 kids. So what we kind of see that laying out is a few more of the 0 to 5-year-olds. And then those people likely moving on to a larger house than, this, because his average renter is either a newlywed, a young professional, or somebody looking to downsize. So empty nesters looking to go to no maintenance-free housing. So he actually, his residents in Mundelein are proving this stat from the study as well. He's not seeing much of this school age kid there. They do have some, but it's not being filled. The apartment complex is not being filled with school age children. And if it was, the commitment that he's made is that he's going to make the schools whole as well.
So that's an annual amount then.
Correct. Yep, an annual amount per student. And he's got to make those direct. I'm sorry?
$12,000.
It depends on the school district.
We're not over there, so it doesn't.
True.
It's $12,000.
So he will make that, and it will be distributed per TAC to each school district. So in the event that there is a development that includes residential within one of the TIF districts that are here in this school district, the village will come to you guys with the same conversation. You'd be part of the discussion that we have. So like I said, we do have the 5. We have Mineola, the site of the old Mineola Hotel. It's a property that everybody has some very big interest in, and when it comes time to put money where the mouth is, people don't have the funds to it. We are in talks with multiple developers on that site right now, going kind of back and forth. Some of them have had some interesting asks for TIF funds. Typically, the village will do, it's called pay as you go, and we will reimburse them as the TIF increment is earned versus some upfront cash to them. That's typically what's done with municipalities. Sometimes we'll put some upfront, and we might pay early if we're doing some infrastructure that'll benefit that area plus. But usually when we're talking about developers are responsible for their own infrastructure as well. So we won't put in their infrastructure for them. That'll be part of the costs that are eligible. So we've got Mineola. The lakefront TIF is not the lakefront park area. It is like that Trinsky Island area going over the bridge. However, I don't know if you're aware, Babowski just bought that property, and you may have received last week in the mail their request for tax exempt status. That came certified mail to us last week.
Fox Waterway Agency.
By the Fox Waterway Agency, yeah. So they purchased it.
Okay.
And so where the marina is can't be tax exempt because they are running a business out of there, but where they plan on using that as the dredging site, they are seeking tax exempt status. So at this point, the village wasn't thrilled when the Fox Waterway was looking to purchase it. We put a whole lot of money in infrastructure over there. We could have bonded the money from the TIF and taken it early to pay for that infrastructure, but we did not do that. So we paid it, and now it's going to, they're seeking tax exempt status, and that site's not going to be, I'm sorry?
Was that the interconnect project when you guys were over there a couple of years ago?
Yeah. So that, because of how they look to use it, we're going to be very limited on what that site's going to be able to do from this point on. So again, not thrilled with it, but We did try and get involved and sit down and come up with some other offers on where they might be able to do their operations, but this site was the most appealing for them, and they came to an agreement with the seller. The Route 12 North TIF district, so there's two TIFs on Route 12, that abut to one another. One of them is where the marinas are, 5-star and all of that down there, and it kind of jumps across the street where the new Honda site is going. So that one, although it's below, is called the Route 12 North TIF. And the property right above it, that vacant property, we refer to it as the sales property because that's who used to own
I'm
it.
saying Ford.
Yeah, so that part, that's one, but that's not even the whole portion of it. That's the original Route 12 TIF. That one's been around since
The one
2015.
next to Fred's.
They were both put in place in 2000.
The one just north of Culver's, yeah. Yeah, so that one was 2015. The one right below it was 2021, started in 2021. So it's got the two properties for the one that was in 2015. There's been a lot of developments that have potentially come and gone in that area. And then the South Route 12 TIF is that whole northwest corner of Route 12 and 134. That property was interesting. It's sat vacant for a very long time. And honestly, there's no access from Route 12. You can't see it from Route 12. And if the old Dominic's didn't turn into extra space storage, it might have had a chance to be developed into commercial. But turning into extra space storage, it's a great neighbor to have. They're quiet. They get 5-6 people a day in foot traffic, if that. So that's not anything to drive any sort of commercial development or investment. When the village received a proposal to look at rezoning that into residential, we looked at the analysis and thought that that would be the highest and best use for it at this point. So we did have that rezone, and that is the project that I was just talking about within that we just came into an agreement with. And then at the end, if you click on that link for business opportunities of Fox Lake, this can scroll down a little bit. So here is, I'll get into this website in a minute, but here is each TIF district and the redevelopment plan that was established under each TIF district for easy use. And some more information. If you're looking to it, it kind of shows you high level the boundaries. So that's that. This is the Route 12 North one, which would be over here, but this one is that 15, that one that started in 2015. So these are, like I said, I'll get into this website in a minute, but this is kind of the central location of the TIF plans that have been approved. This shows you the amount of the TIF dollars that has been assessed and valued at, what we're allowed to offer in agreement, and what the eligible expenses are for the TIF that's broken out in each one. All right, so like I said, the apartment complex was our first big agreement that the village has gotten into when it comes to utilizing, capitalizing on the TIF. It's a 154 unit market rate apartment complex. The TIF works on the infrastructure, so you cannot use TIF funds for new vertical construction. You can use it for infrastructure, you can use it for engineering, you can use it for site development, but you cannot use it for vertical construction. So we could not include that when it came to the TIF. So TIFs are also available when somebody comes to us and says, I want TIF money, they have to prove what's called the but-for clause. If it wasn't but for this incentive, this project would not be feasible. If they cannot prove a but-for clause, then we should not engage in a redevelopment agreement with them. The village right now is using SB Friedman, who is also part of our comprehensive plan. They are TIF specialists and they do the but-for analysis. So there is another project that we're working on that has requested TIF funds, and we are on an hour-long phone call this morning, looking and assessing their pro forma and going over the but-for clause. If they can meet the but-for clause, then we would continue to engage in discussion. If they can't, then we say, this is your private investment. You got to make it work. We're not here to fund your whole private investment. We're here to support and stir up economic activity. So again, what this does is it, when that it helps that property value. Yes, it goes up, but so do the surrounding property values that are not within the TIF. So that's kind of some of the increment that you'll start to see as things go up. It turns underutilized and vacant land into productive property in town. These rooftops are helping us. We're very close to getting some larger names here. We need to get more people here. We need to get our census up higher. A higher census also helps get us more motor fuel tax dollars that help our roads. Like there's a lot that goes into it. Lake County has also, with partnership with CMAQ, Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, is determined to add more what's called missing middle housing. There is a huge dearth of housing for this missing middle. Your young professionals, your newlyweds, though there's nowhere for them to go. There's not affordable housing. They don't qualify for subsidized or affordable housing. They can't afford to buy a property. Renting is the way to go, and a lot of folks are opting to rent these days just because of they're burdened by student loan debt and yada, 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 things that we hear in the news. So the missing middle is a huge thing. Right now, the village of Fox Lake has no rental properties available. So basically we do, but it's under 2% of our housing is available. What you want to shoot for is about, 5 to 8% of available properties for rent, because all this is doing is driving up our rent costs, and people aren't going to be afford to live here anymore either. So when you add more housing, it helps kind of balance and level the playing field. Now this apartment complex, his smallest unit is 529 square feet. It is a 1-bedroom apartment. There's no studios in there. We do not allow studios. Most of them have attached garages. Most of the units have attached garages. His average income is, I think when I checked, it was 50% of his residents had about an $80,000 income, and 20% of his residents had above that. So he's bringing in a higher income.
Is that were those numbers from Mundelein?
No, this was all done from his assessment here.
Okay.
This helps, again, like I said, support the retail demand that we have. We know that if you want a pair of pants, you can't go and buy them here at Fox Lake. We don't have retail. So we need to start showing that we have the population, that we have the expense for that. So this housing development is doing that. Oh, I know what I'm saying. Sorry. So his smallest unit is 529 square feet. His lowest income for Fox, or his lowest rent for Fox Lake, is going to be about $1,300 a month for that size. That size does not include a garage. So, and this is the missing middle. This is what, is not affordable housing, but this is what is now in that rough middle spot that is supposed to be affordable for your college grads that are trying to get out of their parents' house. So it's still a high amount. His rent goes for, I think his largest one, it's 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, has a garage. And I want to say, if I recall, it's about $2,300 a month for that. So all that to say, we have these TIF districts. How are we using them? What are we doing with them? When I started here at the village, I realized that we've got these tools and I've got nothing to go to a developer and say, come here, look at us, look who we are. So we worked with a marketing firm who specializes in municipal branding. And they met with stakeholders, they met with our students, they did a lot of one-on-one interviews, yada, yada, yada. This is the life. That's what everybody said when they came here. It's just like, you come here, you get on the water, you get on your boat, and you take a deep breath. So that was when they decided to come up with our slogan, and we're using it, we're leaning into it. If you want to go back and just go straight back to here. Yeah. So this is, it got a list of developers, investors, and I reach out to them every once in a while and say, hey, look at us, look what we're doing over here. And I share this website with them. And this website is small, it's concise, and it shows them everything that they want very easily. It gives us quick stats on who we are, there you go. There. Go up a little bit. It shows that we're convenient. We're convenient to Milwaukee and Chicago. We've got over 1 million visitors that come to this town. And we wouldn't have known that if we didn't have the Big Brother data. It's called Placer AI, where we can see all the analytics in our foot traffic coming in. We've done a lot in infrastructure upgrades. This includes, the park. This includes some of our roads. This includes the
Interconnect.
Thank you. And a lot of this is grants help with a lot of this stuff as well. And so what this does, especially with the park, is it shows the village's commitment to us trying to put our best foot forward. If the village is doing nothing to help themselves, nobody else is going to come in here and say, we want to help. So this has all of that information, pretty concise. And then we've got some quick drop downs, explore Fox Lake here. You can stay there. Here's some opportunities. There we go. That will take you to our TIF districts. This takes you to our, I realized that was a touch screen. I'm sorry. All right, here we go. I'm right now. All right. So incentives, who we are, what we're offering. We talk about our TIF districts, and then we do have business development districts. Our business development districts are in certain areas within the village, and what that does is add an additional 1% tax on your retail. So that's mostly leaning on the visitors that come into town. That's not leaning on our residents' property taxes. We have a facade improvement program right now that offers a dollar for dollar matching up to $4,000 for facade improvements. My opinion is that our facade improvement program is not competitive with neighboring communities. So I'm working on an upgrade right now with that. With our business development districts, we can use that money to help our local businesses with infrastructure improvements, with capital investments. If we're getting to that point where we're recruiting more developers and investors into town, what's that going to do to our local restaurants? We don't want to hurt them. We want to set them up to succeed. So if we restructure the incentives that we offer, then they still remain appealing. We can't do it for them, but we can say, here are some tools. So the business development districts that we have allow us to do that. The TIFs, we could use it once they start generating more funds, but they're just not, they're not productive TIFs right now, so we can't. This kind of specializes that will help folks out with things. Some quick stats about us, who we work with at the village. If somebody's got questions about, starting a small business, I can help them out with location, with what the village can offer, but really the essence of starting a small business, I needed to send them to the Small Business Development Center. So we've got relationships with everybody over there. This is one of my favorites. So I do pull from a commercial real estate program and have a list of all of our commercial sites that are up for sale and give you additional information. So here are those sites. This is all on there, and this goes out to developers every so often to remind them of who we are and what we're doing. So they can go in and they can check out all on their own. People will call often and say, hey, do you have any properties that look like this, that, and the other? And then I can say, here's what we have, and then also direct them to this site. You can click on, just go to additional information, and it pulls up some more stats on that property, and it gives them contact information on who's the broker and allows them to kind of move forward, and we don't have to be involved. With this, we also have developments. So these are some of our larger projects. I guess that's kind of done, so we can remove it. So 329 Thomas, I don't know if you guys are familiar with this property. It's at 12 and 134, but more east on 134, there's Thomas Senior Living right behind it.
Oh, yeah.
Here's Thomas Senior Living.
Yeah.
Here's elevator shafts.
Yeah.
That's what you have to say to get everybody to go. I know what you're talking about. We actually have a developer who has submitted a proposal for this, and what they are proposing is 148 units. This is not in a TIF district. It's not a business development district. There are no incentives for this. It will be before planning and zoning in August. We're very proud of it. This is a developer that's worked all over the Midwest, and not only the Chicagoland region, but Michigan, Indiana, and so on. So they're reputable. They have the financial backing. I'm proud to take this blighted, non-productive property and hopefully have it be productive. In a nutshell, their timeline is about 9 months. So I say reality, that's what, 12, 13 months, but we did make them do a structural analysis on the elevator shafts that are there, on the foundation that's there. Some of it has to go, some of it can stay. But yeah, so these are current projects that are going on. Honda. Here is that apartment complex that I was talking about. Zero Manor is a certain area off Manor Lane, and it has gone through development proposals multiple times. This one came in my third day on the job. It was in front of planning and zoning, I think, my third day on the job, and we're still working with him in engineering, but we're moving forward nonetheless. A solar farm is up here. And then we do have, so right now, when looking at these, plus a couple of other larger improvement projects, we have over $100 million in private investment going on in the village right now. And I feel safe in saying that's the most activity that the village has had in an extremely long time. So I'm proud of that. The village is proud of it. We should all be proud of it. This helps everybody as a whole. So we're actively working to try and get Fox Lake as a player at the table, and we're doing it. So the gimmicky things, the papers, the pens, the stickers, it helps. You know, I go to trade shows and I set up. We've got a whole setup now, and people will sit down and they'll talk to me. My first couple of months here, I went to a trade show and I didn't have any tools and I couldn't get anybody to talk to me about Fox Lake. We've got a presence. We're showing developments going on. We're pushing out on LinkedIn. We're pushing out on social media. I've got my emails going out to developers. We are a player in the game, and I'm proud of that. We've worked very hard over the last year to make this happen, and it's forward progress from here. All of this in the long run helps everybody. I've been running through this, tripping over myself a little bit every once in a while. I'm sorry. Do you have any questions so far?
Well, I have like 1,000, but I'll let you go.
Okay. I'm gonna go home at a certain point. All right. Okay. Again, right now, our population is aging, and I can say that with 100% facts. We're going through our comprehensive plan right now.
Just called
no. The comprehensive plan goes through these deep analysis like you wouldn't believe, but I think it's safe to say that, you know, that folks here are from the tried and true folks from Fox Lake love this area. They're staying, which is wonderful. At the same time, these garden homes are great entry level. So we're trying to make some housing, like with that 12 and 134 apartment, that gives somebody the opportunity to move to maintenance-free living. That'll then be able to sell that home and have a young family who's going to invest in it and have their kids go to school. But otherwise, our school districts, the population is shrinking because people they're not moving, they're staying, which is great, but at the same time, it's not helping us grow. So we are working actively to add to that, give there more housing options, bring a different demographic into town, just giving people more opportunities that weren't here because there is no movement in our residential market. So obviously I say that and with a little bit of a residential focus, considering the fact that we just finished that RDA and IGA with that 12 and 134 development. But most of our TIFs do look at commercial development. They look at commercial development, they look at hospitality, and we're really trying to get that hotel into town. Any given day, there's 3 different locations where we're getting proposals for hotels. Until one of them actually does it, I'll work hard to get one, but so we're looking at bringing in the retail, we're looking at the commercial, we're looking at hospitality, all of that. And with that comes housing and some mixed use development, you know, but we've got nothing else in the works that is at a point where we can say, hey guys, we need to talk. But I will say, please know that Village is working with everybody to the fullest extent that we can to make sure that there's trust and that there's a relationship and an open dialogue. We are partnering, this applies more to Grant Township High School, only because it's high school students. If there's anything that we can do at the elementary school age, let me know. But we have met with our students. We have talked to them. They've done projects on what they want to see in the village. We've had independent meetings with them in our comprehensive plan folks, sitting down with them saying, what do you want? You guys are the future here. You know, you stay here, you know, work, grow your family, be here, go off, get a college education and come back. Like that's what suburbs are really struggling with, is how do they get their college educated kids to come back and be that next generation in town? So what can we do to stay in their mind to be that place that they can come back? So they actually have proposed a lot of ideas to the comp plan, and that is, some of it is being included at a very high level. And then some of it's already being worked on and trying to partner with them with some of our community garden. You know, our parks department does an amazing job with all of our community partners, trying to get them involved in the different activities. But our high school students have been involved in a lot. They've absolutely had a stake. They've had a place at the table in our comp plan, and we look forward to keeping that going, even when the comp plan is over. Have one more?
Well, before Ken goes, I would just remind the board that separate from your information, we have another data source that informs us to tell us that our enrollment is declining sharply. Remember, we did an enrollment projection study that affirmed exactly what you're saying, which is kind of scary declines in enrollment. It's already presenting itself. Step back and look at staffing plan, for example. There are sections that are going down. Pre-K is going down, kinder is going down. Got a bubble class at 4th grade where we have a slightly bigger group coming through, and so that's going to add a 4th section this year. But you see it at this level, and
Correct.
we're seeing it at the by name by need level, that it's hitting us as well. And I do want to let the board know that we have a lunch set for later this week with Jeremy, who's the new superintendent at Grant, to build communication and trust. So I appreciated that invitation very much. Just look forward to hearing what we're going to talk about.
Yep.
And thank you for the time to come in and talk about it. So.
I really have two buckets here. And my first one is, are you familiar with the approval process for a tip? To start with that one.
So I was not here when the village went through.
No, I'm just asking if you're familiar with the approval process.
I'm familiar at a high level.
Okay, so you're aware that it shall convene a joint review board.
Correct.
Okay, so that is in all your ordinances that a joint review board was convened.
Yes.
However, there's 3 people here that were here in 2021 that had no knowledge of it. There's 5 people here that were here in 2022 that have no knowledge of it. So, I would say that there was no joint review board. I could point to your meeting minutes, to comments in the meeting minutes that basically kind of show that we talked to the schools and they're okay with it.
I've got,
So these are the discussions that should have been had 3 years ago, is kind of what I look at. So that's kind of one bucket is the approval process. I feel like we were left out completely.
so I can't speak for what would happen next.
Absolutely.
You know,
I wouldn't expect you to.
Okay.
I wouldn't expect you to. I'm just informing you where I'm coming from is, we started talking about the TIFs a while ago when Bosky first went up for sale. You might have been here when that happened. I don't know.
I think Bossy's been up for sale long before I started.
Yes, a couple years ago, maybe.
Yeah. 18 months.
So, well, when Bosky went up for sale, though, is when it started bouncing around. Why is there a TIF district there? How did that happen?
Right.
So that's where this kind of all started. And it's just kind of waterfall this year because we were finally invited to a joint review board update for the very first time in January. That was the first one that I was aware of, and I've only been here 4 years. There's Matt's been here for like 50, but that was the first one we were involved in. And at that point, we asked for the meeting minutes because we want to know, well, how did this get approved without our knowledge? Did we ever get meeting minutes?
We did not.
What did we receive?
We received email or copies of email correspondence that would indicate that we were invited to the 21-22 series. We got copies of emails that indicated that my predecessor was at least in communication for the 2015 decisions. I don't have record of receipt of certified mail indicating call to a joint review board. That would be the documentation that I have on the record. And then one of my colleagues shared some notes from the 22 meeting, but they were limited in scope because that person didn't necessarily attend every meeting held.
I see what you're saying.
Well, if you look at the rules or the law or the regulations for the joint review board or the approval, it's a public meeting in a sense where you're taking a public member.
Mhm.
Okay, there's 9 TIF districts involved. At most, there's 3 people at your meeting minutes that are listed on your website for updates for the 2015 extension, because that's a 2004 TIF. So the 2015 extension, there were 3 people there out of 9. I don't even understand how you're having meetings with 3 people. I'm not
We
sure.
don't have to force them to come. We invite. I mean, on how any meeting goes, we invite. There's not a set. You don't need a quorum for that. And then just a reminder too, that we don't need, any municipality establishing a TIF doesn't need a unanimous support.
I'm well aware of that. However, so that's the one bucket. That's just the approval process bucket.
I can't speak for any of that. so
Right.
I'm
I've
sorry.
never really looked, well, I can't say never really because I did this month. I've never really dove into the individual tips because it wasn't really on my mind. I was kind of focused on how come our district was never there? It's going to cost our district, in my estimation anyway, close to $100,000 a year here real soon. And, it's a lot of money.
So I think there's a larger, I understand what you're saying. And I would say that the larger concern is, that the village will work with schools on.
We're not going to get any
Student body.
students off the
But-
properties that we're in the TIF for. So I'm not really concerned about the
But here,
student population.
I understand, if I may, though, one of the issues that all of us taxing bodies are having right now is some of these other already established properties going to a tax exempt status. So if you want to look at Lilac Homes, I'll take District 114 only and say there was $291,000 for District 114 from tax year 2023 alone that has gone away, unbeknownst to all of us.
Right.
That's
No, I don't
one
disagree.
year.
I don't disagree.
Correct. The year before was $24,000. And then, the sad part is when that happens, we obviously all budget for that higher amount. And when they come in for reduction and want exemptions and then to go backwards, we haven't budgeted for any of that. So I don't know, last that I saw, Thomas Place, for example, applied and was denied. Are they going to appeal? I don't know. But there's, we all need to do a better job with our legislators to figure out how we can be notified of this kind of happening. This is taking a huge impact. But if the property is not being productive now, and if there is no TIF to help it be productive, the only loss coming in is because we did something to recruit development.
There's no guarantee that a TIF will do anything. The success rate on TIFs, I don't have, there's no real solid number on that. I would recommend to everyone look that up yourselves. The most successful TIFs, I think you'd probably agree, is when the developer walks through the door and says, I want to do something over here. How can you help? And you put a TIF in place, you sign an agreement. And to your point, the increment payouts to them is of course critical, because you want to give them money up front. Those seem to be the most successful. You use the but for comment. What's the but for Mineola, for Lakefront, and for North? No one walked in the door on those, but they were put in place.
I will agree with you 100% on that and say, yes, somebody
Now,
should
there is a
come.
but for that I disagree with, and maybe most people don't know. Ben Watts had an agreement put in place for TIF money a month before the TIF was approved. So Ben Watts is getting a new seawall.
So that's called an inducement resolution. And that goes,
It's in your minutes.
I know, I'm trying to answer you.
Okay.
So like you said, when somebody comes to you and says, I want to do this development, but I need you to create a TIF, then you get into an agreement and you have what's called an inducement resolution,
Yeah.
saying, okay, I see what you're saying. You've proposed something that makes sense. Here's kind of what you need. We get a pro forma, we have an idea, and then we say, and that inducement resolution says, we will work on our end to start creating a TIF. You're right.
Correct.
That is the order it should be in, which is why Ben Watts probably, and that was before me as well.
Right. And
Might have
trying to
had
put
an
any, I'm
agreement.
definitely not trying to put any of this on you, absolutely. So don't think that I am. But as I dug into this, it just got overwhelming to the sense where, I can find in the meeting minutes an approval for Ben Watts to get TIF funds before a TIF fund's even approved.
But like you said, it's because somebody came and said, this is what I want to do. This is what I
Right.
need
So
to
the
do
TIF,
it.
the TIF was approved because of Ben Watts. You actually have that in newspaper articles that it was there. You also have in newspaper articles that it was a unanimous decision or unanimous vote to put the TIFs in place in 2022? The 3 people that were there, or was it a phone call? Does a phone call equal a joint review board meeting? Because this board's not going to agree with everything I say. So, that's the whole other bucket.
Well,
Individual
if the
TIFs.
3 or 9 people at that joint meeting, doesn't matter what they say, because the village is gonna do what they want. Everybody wants to do.
Correct.
The
But at
unanimous
least you
decision
get your
is the village
voice
board.
out there and it gets heard. For not just this district, but for every district. How many other phone calls were made to say, hey, do you mind if we put a TIF district in? Okay, cool, thanks. Is that a joint review board meeting? I don't think it is. But I understand how it happened, and that's all fine. So Ben Watts, that particular TIF was basically for Ben Watts is what it feels like and what I have in writing anyway.
The TIP plan would lay out a little bit more what the larger vision was.
So the Honda dealership, I don't know if they're going to receive any TIF funds, but they're in the TIF district as well, but I can't review their tax records. I'll go one step further with Ben Watts. He contested his taxes and he lowered his tax rate, so he doesn't even pay into the TIF.
I'm not a tax assessor.
Well, it's public information. You
I
can
know.
look that up.
I have no control over that, is all I mean.
So that's tough to swallow when we sit here and go, first, we weren't invited. Or if we were, or if he spoke to somebody, if somebody from the village spoke to somebody here. First, it doesn't seem like there was a joint review board meeting. Second, Ben Watts is getting whatever he's getting. It's not important, but it has I don't see a seawall having any effect on raising taxes anywhere that help us. And then Ben Watts goes one step further and says, I'm going to lower my taxes. I'm not going to pay into the damn thing. So that's one TIF.
Is that like a different agreement? Because you had just mentioned that the money that goes into the TIP is the incremental increase over the base year.
Mhm.
But this is a different type of agreement now?
So I'm familiar
that's-
with the Ben Watts one. That was again before my time, so I would have to read on that before I could answer anything to it.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I would hope that that's considered infrastructure, so it's eligible costs. Whether or not you can get everybody on board with it being a productive cost is a different story, but it's an eligible cost. So, I mean,
Ordinance was this an ordinance approving a redevelopment agreement between the Village of Fox Lake and Ben Watts Incorporated. The notes from meeting minutes, this TIF would allow, or this would allow TIF money to be used for shoreline stabilization at Ben Watts Marina. That's all it says in the meeting minutes, but that opens, that all of a sudden sparks and you go, okay, well, what else is out there? And then you start finding the articles where it seems like, wow, this was all built for Ben Watts, which is fine if it was, but that would have been nice to know 2 years ago. Mineola is probably the number. I agree with that one wholeheartedly. I don't necessarily agree with the little loop down toward the water. Blackland Brewery doesn't seem like it's dilapidated, but either way, I think Mineola is it's something that would be a great sense of pride for the people in Fox Lake.
Working very hard on
to
that
see
property.
something happen there.
Right.
I'm not against TIFs. So I don't want to seem like I am. Mineola, I absolutely agree with. The Fox Lake Ford and the 18 acres, that's been there for 21 years. It was extended in 2015 because a developer who still owns the land, so it's wrong, he was in the business, came in the door and said he was going to build a hotel.
Mhm.
Okay. I wasn't here in 2015. I think Matt was probably the only one. But either way, had anyone had any foresight to think about it, why did we extend the TIF 12 years to goes 2039? Why wouldn't we put that contingent? I would have been fine with an extension on that. At the time, it was involved in the board, but of course, sure, when you start construction, we can extend it because it was set to expire in 2027. So it was extended in 2015 based on somebody walking through the door and saying, hey, we're going to do something, and nothing ever happened. There was nothing put in place to make sure that it did.
that's what
Or
the
a
unfortunately is.
mechanism put in place that says, well, we're not going to extend it until, we see a bucket hit the ground. That one's been there 21 years. The same owner that bought it then still owns it now. I don't know what's going to happen with that. I personally think that the only way that little section grows is when the Wilson boys decide to sell the corner there, because then you get the stoplight and the Eagle Point Road access. And then the lakefront TIF. You know, your 2017, you had a study done for a hotel on the property I just talked about and Trinsky Island. And they were both feasible for a hotel. Okay, see that makes sense, except Trinsky Island's in an AE flood zone. Harder to build, but can still be done. Now you lose the Bosque property, now it's just Trinsky Island. What benefit is the TIF doing just for Trinsky Island? I don't know if it is. Is it going to continue? What will those funds be used for? Because it's just used for the 100 Club and Aero Marine. If once that property sells, the Bosque property sells, and there's no more TIF funds coming from that, or they're tax exempt, I would assume that you can't use TIF funds on the Bosque property anymore.
So they're not going for, just to clarify, they're not going for tax exempt on the entire Bosque property, just on the portion that they're using for the dumping. So the marina is still a tax, and it has to be. 'Cause it's a business.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because Bosque is that area makes sense. Quite honestly, the Trinsky Island portion doesn't really make sense. And these would have been questions that I would have had. I think. Keep in mind that I've dug quite a bit, mainly because but Trinsky Island doesn't make a ton of sense to me because I don't see a hotel going. And I don't know what would go there besides the marina. That thing's been there as long as I've been walking the planet. Same with Ben Watts Marina. It's been there as long as I've been walking the planet. I don't see either of those being anything other than a marina. So to put TIFs on them just seems, off-putting to me, but does it make sense? TIFs range from the successful ones that you talked about in Vernon Hills down to municipal money grabs. And you can read that anywhere you want to because it's out there.
You're right.
And I'm not saying it's municipal money grab either. I'm just saying that's the range and that's what I look at. And, I'm just disappointed that this district wasn't included. Fox Lake made a post a while back and 66% of the tax funds goes to the school districts. That's 33% to us roughly. And we're right down the road. I'm sure the mayor could have walked into any one of these schools and would have been welcomed with open arms in 2021 and 2022 and had the discussion, or anyone from the village, as far as that matters, and it never happened.
I can't speak to it.
Right. We never received anything. And now we sit here and find out that, hey, this is going to cost us. We need to put a roof on a building. If these TIFs weren't placed, would that money still be there to put a roof on a building? I'm not going to say that it would be, if it could go somewhere else. But, we're looking at having to raise funds to do work here.
So I guess overall, communication going forward, absolutely. Is there anything, Ken, question-wise that Jody can answer?
No,
Or should we
the TIFs themselves, the individual TIFs were, again, it's
Right.
two
Right.
buckets, and the individual TIFs are the individual TIFs. And people of this board agrees with each one of them.
Well, it's can't do anything about it.
And I would disagree with you.
We can't change history.
I would disagree
We're
with that
stuck.
too. I would disagree with that too.
We're stuck. We've seen a few emails that looks like they went to the prior superintendent, whether he
The
got
law
them, whether he
says
didn't
shall
care,
convene a joint review board. It doesn't say
and they did.
might. No, shall convene. Shall convene means you have to. Doesn't mean an email.
We don't
No,
have any.
how everyone
evidence.
else wants to look at it is fine. That's the way I read it. That's the way it is. Or that's the way it's written in the regulation.
Well,
How the rest of the board wants to look at it is up to them. Have there been TIFs that have been reversed because the schools have challenged municipalities? Yes, there has. Not for this reason.
so that's a totally different topic then.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Anybody else have any questions, comments? I guess just my 2 cents, theoretically, it's sales property. Yeah, it's always been a vacant piece of blighted property. It's lakefront property, it's blighted. So what that tells me is it a developer doesn't want to develop it? Well, we know that developers have come in, so we want to do it. But you know what? I think that the owner has too high of a price tag on it. Lower the price tag, now a new developer can come in and develop the property. Doesn't have to be on the money of the residents here. So I know you pay high-priced people to say what is TIF and what isn't, just like they said. Well, the whole village can be a TIF. As the whole village is blighted property. Now, that's because they're attorneys and
Well, they actually meet the legal criteria because of the
Yeah.
age of the buildings as well. Just there is that, it's not just all subjective. So the age of our development, you know, there's a very small section that's actually relatively new to town. Otherwise, you know, most of what we have here has been built well over 25 years ago, which is where you start to get into your, I think it's my middle quote. Your qualified criteria on what starts to have it be hit blighted. You know, I can't speak for what has been done prior to me. You know, I can speak for what I'm doing since I've been here. And what I can tell, look at all of you guys and be on your minutes and say is that there's certain standards that folks, when they say, I want TIF incentive, that they need to come to the village, that we will hold them to prove that they actually need this, versus saying, that sounds good, let's sign on a dotted line and get you money, and then, oh, look, no shovel went in the ground.
Well,
I agree with you. You know, some of these were a little premature on the assumption that now we can say, we have a TIF. Now this is killing us because every minute that goes by on this 23-year TIF is less of an incentive amount that we can offer. So we're hurting ourselves with it. You know, it's not gonna recruit
and some of
in
those,
that time.
that documentation on the before the last joint meeting that we did go to,
Mhm.
I read some of those but-fors are just garbage.
They
Absolute
are
garbage.
They are.
I'm not saying you approve them, but
Yeah, right.
that people get around it, and it's just not fair. Question for you, so the property next to Thomas Place, you said that's blighted property, the developer's gonna come in, but is not asking for a tip? Or
He
just-
asked for it. We told him no.
Even
I'm
though
not
it's blighted,
adding a sixth
even though it's
district.
blighted property,
Correct.
how come he's not getting it? It seems like everybody else on Route 12 is.
Well, it's not a TIF already established, and I wasn't going to establish a sixth TIF district.
You can get rid of one of the.
I said no, and he didn't walk. Why am I going to establish a TIF?
Right.
He could have. What about all those new residences going up on Route 12 by Mile Road? I know that's what, in Volo?
That's Volo.
Is that TIF?
I don't think Volo has
No.
TIF. I don't know.
So all this talk we hear about, oh, well, we really need a tip down here to be competitive with people to the south of us.
Volo, it's
That's
my understanding.
When we were at
makes-
the last joint meeting, Kevin Hunter had made that statement. Everybody up and down Route 12 is doing it, so Fox Lake has to. Well, look at all those homes.
You're right. I mean, but we're getting development now in at least one area that has it, you know, and I'll say if one area that has it, one area that doesn't. You know, and again, what I can speak for is what's been going on for the 18 months that I've been here, and putting 304 new rooftops in town is a huge accomplishment for everybody when it comes to that. So, you know, with Volo, there's TIF incentives. I think that they're also working on impact fees, permit fees, and those, you know, connection fee negotiations also help. And so we'll do that as well and work and negotiate some connection fees and impact fees, but we can't do that at the expense of our infrastructure. Our infrastructure needs some help too. So if we can kind of help compensate, then that might be open for discussion. But otherwise, like I said, with the 329 Thomas, that elevator shaft properties, I mean, anybody can come in here, ask for a TIF, they say no, they walk. If we say no, they walk, there's no harm, no foul, nothing's lost. These guys asked for it, I said no, and they stayed at the table and they submitted their application. It's going to planning and zoning next month. It's a win for everybody. They do see it as a profitable opportunity.
So you said there are 300 new rooftops in the Fox Lake area?
Coming in, so there's 154 unit market rate apartment complex, and then the 148 coming from assuming it's approved, coming from the 329 Thomas. None of them are in your school districts.
Thomas is big out.
Yeah.
South Dakota. Add one thing real fast. No one's gonna.
What's your definition real fast?
On the Fox Lake website, you have what's the yearly TIF
Financial statements?
Yeah. There, it just says TIF number 1, doesn't say anything. It says 0. Now, I know the laws have changed. It was one of the reasons why it seems like some legislation is changing. I've researched a little bit of that, but I had to go to the comptroller website in order to get accurate information on the individual TIFs on the financial stuff because it's not being listed. And it's also supposed to be supplied to the different taxing districts, is what I understand. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. But annually, that's supposed to be coming now as of 20. Yeah, well, of course, the municipal league opposed it, but I believe it did pass. You can look into it.
Well,
Either way,
yeah,
on your website, I would think that, the Mineola, the individual TIFs would be listed individually for their financials at the end of the year. For example, no.
I mean, I'm not our finance director and too versed on financial reporting.
My memory's not the greatest, but I kind of remember when we were at the joint meeting, the financial statement did have you like TIF 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but there was other additional paperwork not related to the financial statement that did.
I remember that
define
from the
which was
update
which,
where it looked like they had individual ones, but it
Yeah.
seems like on the website there's not.
Well, I know where to go on the
One
website. If
thing
you don't
of
mind, I'm
note-
just taking a quick look.
I mean, and of course, from the comptroller's website, you guys, you send them information.
Oh, so it's gone through, they use Sickage, the village uses Sickage as a financial auditing to meet all of the audit reporting requirements. So it's not my forte, but I'm going to make an assumption that we meet all standards to what needs to be published with that Sickage document.
Which is,
But that's,
Located
just, I think
If you
just
go to our
the
website
comment was,
and then you
Municipal
go
Life,
to,
or-
no, I'm sorry, the village
that's
website.
the regular village
So-
website.
Is
Maybe I
that
looked in the
our-
wrong place, I don't know.
And then,
This one,
is it
right?
touchscreen? Yep.
This is not.
Okay, go to scroll down, transparency portal. Scroll down, keep going,
Sure, I have our-
tax information, yep, so the 2023-2024 TIF,
Okay, so here's
and that's the
one.
document.
Right.
believe it has-
doesn't give this any, it doesn't really show anything, and I'll use this one, at least I don't think. It just says tip number 1. This was I think in 2022, either way.
This is TIF number
So,
21.
Tip number 1, which is the old Fox Lake 4.
Oh, TIF, I'm sorry, go,
Yeah.
reports.
So,
I think so, 25.
okay, so go to 20. Tax and finance reports. Clear as mud with all of this now.
Right.
I mean, I can talk to Mary, our finance director, as
Yeah,
well
I mean,
to get
this-
some clarification
These
on
things
it.
are supposed to be, and I'll double check,
Oh, I was in
changing
the wrong.
legislation on that. But I thought something changed there where everything that was sent to the comptroller was also supposed to be sent out to the different taxing districts annually. Going back to 2022.
Here's what I'm seeing, but I'm seeing tip 1. That's
Yeah.
all
All
that's
that's in there is
Mary.
tip
Yeah.
one.
I'll talk to Mary about that.
So
We
we
went
get,
back 2 years and it was 9 pages looking like tip 1
Okay,
only.
I'll get clarification on that and have her reach out to you. Heather,
guess
would you
it-
mind being the central point?
yeah, no.
I'm great with that,
that's
yeah.
Perfect, yeah.
And one quick comment on that. 'Cause I know a little bit about financial stuff.
I hear.
So the Sickich is the auditor on this, but these are the village's reports.
Correct.
The village can tell Sickich, yeah, we know this is tip 1, put a description that it's lakefront tip.
Mhm.
Because that's what people know about.
Mhm.
It's the village's report, so it maybe some clarity like that.
Sure.
Moving forward would be helpful for anybody that's looking at this.
Yes.
That's totally the village's.
Yeah.
I think, if I may end with, we're doing a lot of good. We've got some great momentum happening in town. It's fun to see. It's fun to be part of. Again, I can't speak for what happened over 18 months ago, but really do look to move forward and build relationships the best that we can. I appreciate you bringing that stuff to my attention. If there's questions, my contact information is
This has
here.
been going on for about 6 months or so. a little bit on and off. I think the village is probably well aware that I've been raising my voice about it. And about 4 years ago, I was at the bus stop with my daughter, and she was 8, whatever. The car comes racing through the neighborhood, and so I had my daughter step back. We're in a drive-in the bus stop's at, and I of course step out, and the car misses me, and he stops. I'm like, it's a little early in the morning for this. I'm like, okay. He gets out. He looks at me and goes, I'm sorry. Caught me totally off guard. And I think, got back in his car and left. We waved to each other and we gave sense. At one time, when we heard anything from the village, I said, we see this. We're sorry. What do we need to do to make this right and make sure we're in for it? And I would have approached it completely different had that happened. Just so they're there.
Thank you for your time
Yeah.
tonight.
Thank you for
My
your
pleasure.
time.
Thank you for the invite. And if there's any other questions that come about, is sit home and ponder. My info's on there, but here's my card as well. Reach out anytime.
Yeah, thank you. Nice to meet you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I got you. Thanks, Jody. Oh, and here's your number. So
Thank you.
Hey, one last question.
Almost here.
Jody, that was
That
your
wasn't
time.
me.
I know.
You're already excused.
all right.
You're gonna need lunch, Ian.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for the
We
opportunity.
appreciate what you're doing.
Oh, thanks.
All right.
Talk to you soon. We'll be in
Yep.
touch.
Yeah, see you later. All right, facility committee.
Sure. So currently we have Johnson Controls here. They're working on our fire alarms over at Stanton. Originally, the project was supposed to be completed in June. However, talking with Corey, they're going to finish up towards the end of July. However, because the project's extended, we are now on weekly updates from them. So one of those things where it's taking a little bit longer, but we're on top of it. It's not delaying any projects over at Stanton, and it's not interfering with summer school. So the fact that they are taking a little bit longer, not ideal, but it's really not hurting anything right now.
And no additional incurred costs.
Not at all. We have our health and life safety survey, which I feel like we've been talking about for a year now. They actually moved up the date of their survey. So they have a team of architects. Initially, they were supposed to come next week, but they actually just contacted us and said, can we come tomorrow and start? So they're going to start over at Stanton first. Again, it's going to be no interruption to summer programming whatsoever, which is good. They will start with their team, and Donnie will get updates from their team. They hope to finish by the end of the week. If not, we still had them on our schedule for the following week. So even if they need a little bit longer, that's fine. Then we'll sit down and meet with them about those tiered projects we talked about. They usually categorize them by like the A, B, and C projects. Again, those still have to be approved by ISB before we go anywhere with those projects. So it's still going to be a little bit longer. We're on like a 4 to 6 month ISB taking to review those projects. More to come on that.
So that would be a point where we would invite the facilities committee back into conversation
Yes.
when we're getting input from the architects in terms of those tiered projects. Because the timing on that is going to be really important if we want to take anything to bid. If you start mapping forward, we get the report, determine priorities internally. ISB approval, you just heard Natalie say, is 4 to 6 months. So getting us smack in the middle of a bid season if we want to aim for anything for next summer.
And we do have, just a reminder, we have to offer benefits over that $35,000 threshold. So we had something unfortunate, but happened then right when I took over.
Yep.
So our freezer at Lotus, of course, it was a Saturday, went down, so our alarms were going off. Amazing team though. It was myself, Russ, and Sonia all came in. We got all of the food that we could, moved over. Huge props to Sonia and Russ. Moved over on a weekend to the Stanton freezer. Luckily, though, we had room in the freezer just with it being summer. And Fox Lake Police Department assisted us with sitting in our parking lot until we could get our alarms up. So it actually worked out, luckily, that everybody was around to kind of troubleshoot that situation, because it can't just happen on like a Monday, right? It has to happen on a Saturday. So Don actually did try fixing it with a part. It did not work. We had Westside Mechanical out. That unit is 23 years old, both the unit on the roof, and they found leaks inside the coils, inside the freezers. It needs to be replaced. Now, this was something we were hoping could come up on health, life, and
Right.
safety. We can't wait on a freezer. That's just not something. We have to have it up and running. We're getting shipments in for summer school. We have schools starting soon. Again, we just want to take care of this right now. So they did come in with a quote, so 15,000 roughly. We did just go ahead and hire them to do the work. Comes under the threshold of the board approval and something we can't wait on. We are using our Fund 60 capital improvement funds that we had talked about using anyway for a project just like this. So luckily we do have the funds available to do the project. Unfortunately, we couldn't wait for health, life, and safety like we talked about those bonds, but actually in the grand scheme of things, it just worked out the way it needed to get it fixed and quickly. Any questions about that? Okay. Then we brought to the board last board meeting about wanting to look at an agency for custodians. Randomly, we got 4 applications. Heather and I sat down with 4 applicants. 2 wanted daytime, 2 really liked the hours that we're proposing for the fall, and they came as really good fits. We have 1 under hire. We have 2 pending hire, 1 for Stanton, 1 for Lotus, and both just young custodians that also want to do daytime school, either MCC or CLC, which is great too.
Yep.
Like that's kind of exactly what we're talking about, right? With like, this is the light, getting people to invest here and stay here. So again, college students that just want nighttime positions. So we do not think we're going to have to go out to agency for this. And like we said, it's better, cheaper and better to keep it in-house and we can train them. Any questions?
And I did share that with Mo earlier today. That was a hard pill for the AFL to give an endorsement for, but we also need to clean buildings, but it's always in our best intent and best interest to have our own staff and our own people. So we're happy that it's turning out this way. So I think, oh, and there's the applause from DeVos. I think that the fact that this board approved the agency was somehow out into the universe exactly what we needed to finally get some applicants for our custodial position. So, and great candidates.
They
great
really
people.
were. We had 4 really good candidates. We have 1 more coming in too, but they want the kitchen. So, which is great because we have things in our kitchen. So, we have our audit coming up the 24th and 25th. However, contacted said they might be able to start a little bit earlier. So that would be as early as July 22nd. And lastly, seal coating at Stanton. They contacted us. They want to jumpstart early. They want to get it done July 31st afternoon, so it won't affect anything for summer programming. And then all Donnie had to do was contact Waste Management and get them to move the dumpsters. Not a problem. So,
The only thing to check on with that is to make sure that Grant's big trucks from their project will be off our property.
okay,
Because that was the reason for the delay from the June dates.
okay,
So I believe they're expecting to be done, but with any construction project, as we all know,
Right.
things can go long. So can you just make sure
yes.
that they'll be done by then?
Transportation updates. There are no changes. In August, we'll talk about still looking for a van and a bus driver.
All right. Any questions for this one?
That's
Nice
No
update,
shortage of
Kristen.
excitement for starting.
Nice
right
job.
away.
All right. Any questions for Natalie? All right, then I would direct the board's attention to the updated personnel report that was at your seats. We did add some color coding because I think it helps to tell the story of where we are. Huge, huge props to our administrators and hiring teams, because for every hiring decision, collaboration with the relevant team that person or those contenders will be working with was had. So it's been a super collaborative process to find great people. So you can see we have a lot of approvals and hires going through tonight. Anything that you see highlighted yellow in pending means that we have an offer out to someone. That offer has been accepted. They just haven't signed a contract yet. And then anything highlighted in green are remaining open positions. So if you look at it in the scope of all that, we're in a very, very positive place. In fact, better than we ever have been in the month of July. So I'm incredibly proud of how the hiring teams have worked to fill spots. In collaboration with Natalie and Sonia here at Lotus and Sue over at Stanton, our kitchen leads, we have made the decision, and we had talked prior about the potential decision related to food service coordinator. We had talked about a longer game for that, but with the resignation of Georgette Franco, we have internally decided that with that call, we're going to pull ourselves together to run for food services without a coordinator. We feel strongly that across all of us, we have the talent, skill, and time to manage that. I have asked Sonia and Sue to log any time spent outside their current paid date required to fulfill duties that they didn't ordinarily have, because I'm certainly not going to ask people to do more for less. But I'm also not okay with any kind of an increase, not knowing what the increase in the impact will be. So I think we're in a great place on that. We're meeting together. That's tomorrow, I think, for another food services check-in. Finding special educators continues to be difficult. We still have an open position over at Stanton. So we have begun the conversation of, if we can't fill that position, what would it look like to use the existing special educators and just kind of reconstruct caseloads. That's obviously not the best plan, but we also don't want to hire just to have a person, but have a person that isn't up for the job or isn't a fit for the needs of the kids. So we're going to keep looking there. I see she just popped on to want to celebrate the move of Caitlin Fenton, who is a 4th grade teacher. She's going to be moving into the math intervention spot that is open. So that's here for hopefully board approval, at least consideration, and I would recommend approval tonight, is that move for Caitlin, which would create an open classroom teacher position. So with all that said, lots of pieces moving in the right direction. Like lots of great things are happening. And I shared it in my text update to the board just as a reminder for the change in the meeting schedule. The new administrators that we've got in the places that they are starting July 1 are absolutely blowing my mind in how they're working together, what they're doing, tone and culture in the building. It's fantastic. So very pleased to see. So with all that said, it would be my recommendation that the board consider and approve the personnel report as it's brought forward in the updated form.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Roger, second by
Ken.
Ken. We're too soft. Please pull the board.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Grady.
Yes.
Mr. Don Giovanni,
Yes.
Mrs. Browski,
Yes.
Mr. Galina,
Yes.
Mr. Dabrowski.
Yes, okay, motion passes. Thank you.
We have a walk-on that Natalie and I are both super excited about. So there's an intergovernmental agreement up for consideration. If anyone would like to read full copy on it, you can. It's currently in the signature file. So as we've talked about, working to the very best of our ability to meet the needs of our kids at home and in our walls, one of the things we have ventured to do is build, and we've talked about this, a life skills program, which is tailored instruction for kids with the most complex cognitive and sometimes paired with that physical needs. So this would be students who, in a district that isn't as committed to kids as ours is, immediate outplacements because of the complexity of need. And we've talked ad nauseum about the cost of an outplacement, both emotionally but also fiscally. So we have a cohort of students who we have enough kids to now build a program. who meet that profile of need. And they're coming out of early childhood. So we have a combination of students who are pre-K, kinder, first grade, age appropriate development, who meet the criteria for very, very individualized, specialized programming. And so the plan was already to build it because we have the staff to do it. We have the kids who need it. We have the commitment to it. So why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't we keep our kids at home? Why wouldn't we do this? And then we found out that one of our students who was outplaced by their prior school district before moving here, who was one of the students specifically part of this cohort for whom we designed life skills, had moved to Lake Villa. And after significant conversation and partnership with Lake Villa, I have a great working relationship, not only with their superintendent, but also their special ed director, because we were SPED directors at the same time. So it's nice to be working back with her again. We put forward the idea of, well, the student is coming to you and we know that, what does your programming look like? And Lake Villa, with a lot of class and grace, said, well, we don't have anything like that. We're going to have to outplace her. So my immediate answer was, well, why don't you outplace her right back to where she's been successful already and for whom we're already programming. And they, needed to take a pause and think about that and came back and said, well, what would it look like? So then Natalie and Mary crafted a very equitable and fair on both sides of the equation tuition proposal for this young lady to stay in attendance with us, but for Lake Villa to pay the bill and be responsible for transport, all the things they would be where if they were outplacing to any of the places, but she would just be staying here with us. So with much enthusiasm, the intergovernmental agreement is before you for us to tuition a student in to our specialized programming, which has, if you've been with me for long enough, this was always one of my visions for what we were going to do for kids here in District 114, is build specialized programming, keep them here, and then eventually grow programs where our surrounding districts, because there's not much up here for kids with that profile of need, can stay close, either home because they're ours or close to home, and then we could reap the benefit of that tuition. And so that is what's in the proposal, would be our first intergovernmental agreement in a very long time for tuition in for a student to be in our life skills program. So life skills has launched for summer school. We're treating it very much as like a sandbox to get it up and running. I can't speak highly enough of what we've already seen kids do and navigate using their assistive technology devices, working through independent task boxes, working on grooming and self-care, all the kinds of things that we want kids to be functionally able to do within 6 days. We've seen massive amounts of progress, and I would only expect to see more. And now we have Lake Villa asking us to take a kid. So that is what I'm excited to bring forward for consideration. It does require board approval. Their board unanimously approved it last night. So it's on this board to consider an intergovernmental agreement to tuition in a student to our life skills program from Lake Villa. Can you tell I'm excited about this?
So question, so we can always allow outside students into our district, but then there's a per capita tuition
Mhm.
charge that's calculated annually. Does this charge exceed that because of the situation, or is it under that?
So we took into consideration the, not only per capita for the student cost, but also what it was gonna cost to have our teachers and our paraprofessional in the class. So the agreement we came up with was basically taking what that would be, but also if there's, let's just say roughly 4 kids in the class, which is about the ratio,
Mhm.
the 1/4 of the cost of that teacher and 1/4 of the cost of the paraprofessional. So we did come up with a very fair number. It is in the intergovernmental agreement, so you can see the amount that we would be taking in. Christy will help us with the invoices, and they will be paying us quarterly.
If the student leaves for any reason, like say they move out of state, are they obligated to pay us through the end of year because that teacher is contracted for the year, or how does that work?
So they're actually paying us regardless of attendance. So we did, that was something we did have to go back and forth with them on. They initially proposed that they were going to pay for attendance, and we said regardless of attendance, because we do have to staff the teacher and a paraprofessional.
And that would be what they would get anywhere else.
Yes.
So the
that-
only wiggle room we talked about in that was if this student had a one-to-one paraprofessional assigned to them, so specific adult assigned specifically to that student. First of all, we bill for that,
Yes.
and then wouldn't charge if that student wasn't in attendance because we would use that asset somewhere else. She does not have that, and so in this first clause, it was just kind of, nope, if she's here, whether she's here or not, we have the resources in place. Now, if she did move out of district, which I think was your question, if she became a non-Lake Villa resident, whether that's non-Lake Villa Wakanda or non-Lake Villa California, she becomes a student of record of that district, and then you have to renegotiate. So it would end, if it was the Wakanda example, most schools would absolutely honor the agreement for the course of the year because it's the best thing for the kid to not uproot them. If they moved out of state, then
Yeah, but the attendance, that was a thing back in.
that was cute, that one, yeah.
Any other questions? No. All right, we had a motion by Ken.
A second.
Second by Joseph. Please pull board.
Mr. Bryant,
Yes.
Mr. Bongiovanni,
Yes.
Mrs. Bryowski. Yes. Mr. Bodine,
Yes.
Mr. Dabrowski,
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Grady.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
All right, my friends, policies, we got a brand new policy update from a brand new legislative session. Not a ton of any change in it really, though. If you look at the red highlights that I've given you. This first one is it's policy 280. There is optional language for the board to consider. You'll see footnote 1 is updated to include language a board can adopt to express potential consequences if a board member violates his or her oath of office. So that is on page 2 of the policy and highlighted in yellow. Oh, that's the oath part. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go back to page
And
1,
we don't do the second part of that.
No.
Where, yeah,
page
right.
1, footnote 1. So it's down at the bottom. To encourage appropriate conduct, boards may wish to have their policy express potential consequences, and there's dropped language in the indented section. Board member who fails to abide by the oath of office or by the code may be subject to action by the board, including but not limited to formal censure and or removal to the regional superintendent for referral to the ROE for removal from office under board policy 260, board member removal. So I don't know how the board feels about the inclusion
So
of that.
there's a removal already in
Correct.
260.
Correct.
I mean, Ken wasn't that bad.
I was getting there.
I don't think he.
No, I'm.
Just playing at 260. So 260 is short and sweet. If the majority of the school board determines that a board member has willfully failed to perform his or her duties, it may request the regional superintendent to remove such member from office. We don't know that you want the same language in 2 policies.
Right.
So then my recommendation would be the revision of 280 as it's written, without the add of.
Yeah, to encourage the appropriate conduct, but on the next page though, at footnote number 3, we do have,
Correct.
the option, the top one. Was that where they read it, where they can read it themselves?
Mhm.
I like that option versus somebody reading it to them and then repeating
Yeah.
it back.
That's how we did it the last time.
So we should, yeah. You guys like that option better?
Yeah.
So yeah, let's do, we can, yeah. Use that option and not put in that second part though, where it says about having a local official
No.
administer it. We don't want that part.
Okay. So we can add that language above the language of the actual oath. Got it. Okay. So that would be up for review on 280. Okay, 130, board superintendent relationship. This is a biggie because you guys got to work on this.
Yeah, we're gonna make it a lot stricter. Where's that part about making sure that you act responsibly? We
We
move
took
that,
that out.
move that over to
We
this
took
one.
that out. So this is just updated in response to 5-year review, which means there's nothing substantive change.
Okay,
Same is true for 740, which is students, non-public, including parochial and homeschool. Again, updated in response to 5-year review. We're fully in compliance with all of these practices, including things like students whose families opt to homeschool them still have access to co and extracurriculars or any portion of the student day they want a student to attend. So let's say they want a student to come for PE and lunch type socialization. We absolutely make that happen. Because they're still taxpayers. They have right to it. They just opt not to. So we make it work for them. And we do have kids, particularly at Stanton, that take advantage of that and for definitely extracurriculars. 790 is students released during school hours. Again, this is an update in 5-year review, nothing substantive. But we can take out the high school unit district information about voting. Then we've got 7140, search and seizure, which is updated to 5-year review, but in going through this one, because this happens, this one we have to refer to quite frequently at Stanton. There was nothing substantive in the change nor anything that would require a change in our practices, which I was always happy to see.
Yep.
7325, again, 5-year review, that's student fundraising activity. We're fully in compliance with that, particularly since our PTA is the body that oversees our major fundraising effort with it, which is day of service. 880 is, again, just a legal review on community relations, especially gifts to the district, which I'm glad you asked about the Fox Lake stuff. And I believe that's all the first reads for consideration this time.
through 880.
880. Yep. And that actually finishes the latest press update, which is a great thing. We shouldn't get another one until October. And then so those would be there for review. We'll make the revisions as noted. And then second reads and final approval would be for policies that we looked at last time, which are 2260, 2265, 415, 480, 510, 520, and 5100.
And the only thing on 265, there was some pre-K through 12th grade that snuck in there, and then grade 7 through 12 on the second page
Page
of the
2.
4 pages.
Okay.
Yeah. Item number 1.
Is that 480?
265.
Okay. To revise those. With those revisions, are we okay with approval?
Anybody else see anything? So I'd be looking for a motion to approve those policies that we just mentioned.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Dan, second by Sarah. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion passes.
Agenda preview. August will be bringing you tentative budget. August is obviously busy season with back to school. We have staff reporting back on the 14th. Meet and greet on Monday, the 18th, Monday the 17th, kids start the 18th with preschool starting the Monday after that. Here we go.
That's a quick one day for student recognition.
Yeah, there won't be student recognition in
Okay.
August. We will be back to it in September though.
Board recognition. Right.
Christie, any FOIAs?
Yes. I think that we will grade the 18th, right? And the birthdays are just the 19th.
You're right. Because the board meeting is the 19th. Yeah. Sorry.
Okay. We had a request for invoice for janitorial supplies, which we emailed. Smart Procure, which is the one that asks us for our purchasing records all the time. We sent that. The Lake County Gazette asked for names of attendees to the Blue Alpha Beta Math Team Convention, which is a high school convention, so.
I was gonna ask if we had anybody that went. Okay,
Nope.
that was an easy answer.
That was it.
Okay.
All right.
Other
Anything else from the
business?
board's perspective?
Future agenda preview requests.
What you? Future agenda requests?
I probably revert back to it since I'll be curious to know how all the board members feel about the trip. Typical process so much as the individual tips. At least that way we've done our jobs. So that when we look at all the tips and we improve them. Just
Well, we'll get that far, but
Yeah, and I'll have an update on whatever they want to meet with me about Thursday.
and also I kind of along that same line of similar to the tip is Lilac Apartments. I know you in Grant High School had a lot of conversation when that hit the fan. Maybe just a kind of refresher, and if there was anything that could have been done or can be done. So that's a big number.
We can talk process and then how we partnered with Grant from the legal perspective on it
Yeah, so,
and lost.
okay.
Mhm.
yeah.
Crazy. No problem.
Anything else down there, John?
No.
Sarah?
People in the days. I'm good.
Okay. Danny, I'm not worried about you. All right, other business and dates of note, August 19th, next Board of Education meeting, November 21st through 23rd, joint annual conference. Next, billing for motion to go into closed session to discuss the superintendent's evaluation.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Roger, second by Jen. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, none at 8:44. Okay, here goes another hour.
Wasn't nearly as fast as last time. Saying.
Screwed up telling you how long it was.